weekend. Do you know that man makes money?
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to aroutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It's Monday, July 30th, 2018. Oh, my goodness, how the month has simply flown by. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is sitting in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, criticisms, questions, opinions, and so forth here. So let's get right on into it. Over in Syria, the government troops have launched what they're describing as their final push to defeat ISIS in southern Syria. And, of course, Israel's still out there saying, you know, they better darn well stop at that buffer zone. But apparently there are about 70,000 members of various militant groups, although that number may be overestimated because apparently a lot of them are just skedaddling because at this point it's pretty much obvious their cause is lost. And most of them were mercenaries anyway, and mercenaries are not the kind to fight to the death because they want to cash those paychecks here. Now, story coming out of FortRuss.com is saying that the ISIS attacks against Syria were ordered by Israel out of their concern that the Syrian Arab army was making gains towards the south and may be emboldened to try and retake the Golan Heights. Which is Syrian territory. It's occupied by Israel. Israel has annexed it, but no other government on earth, not even the United States, has recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan. So it's very much a gray area, and Syria has every right to basically go on in and tell the Israelis, you need to get on out. That's our oil and gas over there. Pardon me. Now, Robert Fisk is a journalist that we have linked to many times past, and he does a lot of really good work. And he's out with a new article now where he basically was touring one of the bombed out militant outposts in Syria and basically noticed that the words Hughes Aircraft Co. Guided Missile Surface Attack was just stenciled on the spent missile tubes. And so he did a little bit of working, checking serial numbers and backtracking, looking through all the logs, and basically discovered that the missile casings used by Al-Qaeda all came from U.S. bases. So, now what we're talking about, of course, are these hand-launched missiles that come in a tube or a case. The missile is fired and the case is simply thrown away. But they carry serial numbers and other identifying information, and that's what Robert Fisk used. So yeah, Al-Qaeda was working for the United States. No big surprise to you. I know that you're all smart enough to have figured that out a long time ago, even without the revelations coming out from Hillary Clinton's State Department. Now, as you know, last week, the Australian media ran a story saying that high-level sources in Washington, D.C. said there was an imminent plan to attack Iran. Could happen as early as next month. And Secretary of Defense Mattis just was quick to dismiss this as fiction. It's completely silly. And yet, as of today, other U.S. officials are saying that, yes, an attack is being considered right now. And the pretext for the attack is going to be that Iran is backing Yemen, and Yemen is a threat to the flow of oil coming out of the Middle East. So the U.S. has a duty to protect that flow of oil. Therefore, they're going to go after Iran. That's going to be the pretext for it. And Saudi Arabia, once again, is going to be used as the proxy to go after Iran with U.S. support. Now, Saudi Arabia is doing very well in Yemen with U.S. support, but I think it's going to be a different story when they go up against Iran. And Iran could retaliate by firing missiles at U.S. bases in the region, and there are a lot of U.S. bases. They could even retaliate with a missile launch against Israel, as Iraq did during the first Desert Storm War, because the world knows that Israel is driving U.S. policy on all of this here. Now, Trump reportedly is calling for the establishment of an Arab version of NATO to basically have a collective Arab force in the Middle East. Now, I know what Trump is thinking: a whole new market for U.S. weapons of war, money, 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 money pouring on in. But I can't imagine that Israel is very happy with this idea, because Israel survives by keeping the other Arab nations basically divided, split up, often hostile to each other. So a united Arab Middle East would present a tremendous threat to Israel, because hardly anybody likes Israel these days here. Now, there had been a ceasefire over in Yemen while the United Nations talked about taking over the port of Hodeidah to keep it open, but the Saudis basically broke that ceasefire and launched a major attack into the center of the city, doing major damage. And apparently they hit a plastic factory, an outdoor market, and a fishing pier in the city's center. Another strike targeted a Houthi military police camp in the city. Substantial damage. Now, officials are still trying to figure out what happened and why the ceasefire ended. The UN had tried to get the Shiite Houthis to give the city to the UN, which they agreed to do. Saudi-backed Yemeni forces, however, objected to the plan, saying they'd only allow the UN to take the city if the Houthis surrendered the entire rest of the country, and of course that's going to be a non-starter. Now remember, at issue here is the fact, who is going to be the government of Yemen? Several years ago, the U.S. went on in. They overthrew the legitimate government of Yemen. They installed a puppet ruler. The people of Yemen didn't like that. They kicked the puppet ruler out. And that's what this war is all about. The U.S. has sent Saudi Arabia back into Yemen to slap them down and say, you will love your puppet ruler. Nobody leaves the American empire. And that's what this war is all about. And people are starting to point out the fact that because this is such an obvious war of conquest, that it is an American war despite the presence of the Saudis, that's why we're not seeing it covered on the corporate media. I mean, Stormy Daniels got 455 segments on MSNBC. Yemen got nothing. That's because the United States bears real responsibility for what's going on in Yemen. The missiles that are killing the people from Yemen, they're made in America. The planes that are killing the people of Yemen, they're made in America. The tanks that are killing the people of Yemen, American-made. So that's what's going on. Over in Ukraine, there is still a bit of a battle going on between the Kiev military and these various Nazi groups. Tensions are ratcheting up ahead of the election there. And apparently the neo-Nazis, well, actually, they're just calling them flat-out Nazis, are a little better armed than the Kiev military was expecting. And there have been more than a few fights. So that's getting tense over there. Over in the Russian republics, Prime Minister Medvedev has announced Crimea has now fully integrated into the Russian Federation. They've completed integration with the economy, infrastructure, and judiciary. So basically, what Medvedev is sending a message, it's a done deal, and it's not going to be undone. Russia's built that new bridge from the mainland to Crimea, so Crimea cannot be blockaded from the Ukrainian side. Getting on back to Iran, I had this a little bit out of order here. U.S. politicians and media are talking of Iran regime change as if it's their divine right. And a good example of that is U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo talking about how America was doing God's work in reaching out to the Iranian people to encourage them to overthrow their mafia regime. So they're resorting to the God argument. God wants us to go and change the government of Iran, like we did back in 1953. And wasn't life wonderful under the Shah and his secret police, the Savak? Those were good old times here, not for the Iranian people, of course, but for American and British oil companies that were making money hand over fist. We need to get back to those good old days. As you know, last Friday there was yet another protest at the border between Gaza and Israel. And Israeli forces killed 5 Gazans, including a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old, shot just for protesting, and wounded something like 246. It's just an ugly, ugly situation. Now, as you know, the Freedom Flotilla was making a largely symbolic attempt to run the blockade around Gaza, and the Israeli Navy basically stopped them 70 miles from the Gaza Strip shore. And they basically took over the ship, arrested the crew. Apparently there was some violence on board. Some of the crew members, volunteers, got tased, and they've all been taken away over to Ashdod. And whether or not the aid that was in the boat will actually be delivered to Gaza or not, nobody really knows. In one of the earlier Freedom Flotillas, the aid was basically stacked up on the dock and allowed to sit there until it was too rotted to be of any good. Then Israel sent it through the gates. But here's the point. 70 miles from the Gaza Strip puts this incident in international waters where maritime law applies. When you take over a ship without the permission of the captain or the owner, that is an act of piracy. And that is what Israel has done. They've committed an act of piracy. And the organizers behind the Freedom Flotilla are saying they're going to keep on doing this. They're going to keep on calling attention to this inhumane treatment of the Palestinians by the nation of Israel. Meanwhile, the chairman of the International Committee for Breaking the Siege of Gaza, Zahir Birwawi, is calling on countries with citizens on board the Freedom Flotilla to basically move to protect the lives of their nationals and ensure the delivery of medical aid and these fishing boats to the besieged Gaza Strip. See, every boat that they took down there, they intend to leave there for the Gazans to fish with, to help feed themselves. So somebody put a lot of money into this, trying to get this out there. And there is a concern. You know, people have died on these before. 10 of the activists were killed on the Mari Marmara. Now, a little bit of good news has come on out, is that Ahed Tamimi, who was, along with her mother, thrown into prison because Ahed slapped a fully armed Israeli soldier who was basically behaving very rudely to her family. And she was charged with terrorism and thrown into prison. She has now been released along with her mother. They had a press conference in Nabi Salah near Ramallah. They've been greeted like heroes. And ahead is out there. I mean, apparently one of the first things she did after getting out of jail was to get an ice cream cone. Meanwhile, there were these two Italian artists who had done this really well done portrait of Ahed Tamimi on the Israeli separation barrier in Bethlehem. The artists have now been arrested. Nobody knows where Israel's holding them. The Israeli police are refusing to comment. So Israel has created a new martyr. Like Rachel Corrie, except of course, fortunately, Ahed Tamimi is still alive. But she's become a symbol of the oppression of the government of Israel on the people of Palestine. Now, for the 19th day in a row, Israel has closed the Kerem Shalom crossing, which is the sole commercial crossing with Gaza. And so basic goods are just not getting into Gaza, and as a result, Gaza's businesses, ordinary businesses unconnected with Hamas, are suffering huge economic loss. Now, the Gaza economy is already in dire straits from the blockade and Israeli policies. But this is Israel again exacting collective punishment on the people of Palestine, and that is a war crime. Yet again, a group of Jewish settlers has set fire to Palestinian property in the village of Jalud on the outskirts of the occupied West Bank city of Nablus. And witnesses said the settlers set fire to Palestinian farmland as well as a house which was severely damaged. At least 2.5 acres of wheat was also burned. The settlers also cut down dozens of Palestinian-owned trees in the area. No fatalities were reported. Now, as you know, at the end of last week, North Korea returned some 55 boxes with what are presumably the remains of U.S. and other UN forces who died at the start of the Korean War. And officials are saying this is showing that North Korea wants to improve relations. They took down that rocket testing stand. They returned the remains here. And there's another very subtle signal going on out. Prior to all of this tension, Kim Jong-un, when he would go on out, he would tour the military factories and places where the weapons were being prepared. That's all changed now. Kim Jong-un is now touring North Korean farms and civilian factories. And it looks like he is thinking that it's time to seriously address the economic hardship of the people there. And I still think that Kim Jong-un is considering going along with Moon Jae-in and reunifying Korea, at which point Kim Jong-un won't need weapons of deterrence against the United States, because the United States is not going to invade all of Korea without a really good reason here. Things are calming down so much. Japan is talking about standing down their missile interceptors that they put on up when all that tension was going on. Now, we've been talking about the high cost and the poor quality of America's military weapons. And apparently the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford has suffered yet another failure in its powertrain. It's going to cost about $30 million to fix. And apparently there's an issue with the aging aircraft we already have, the F-18 Super Hornets. Now, the Navy is ordering 18 new aircraft. Kuwait is ordering 28, but Boeing is making a lot of money trying to modernize and extend the life of all the existing F-18 jets. The Navy is referring to it as a severe readiness hole. So the money is flowing into the weapons. It's not flowing into our schools, it's not flowing into our hospitals, it's not flowing into our infrastructure, but boy, it's flowing into the weapons. Reminds me of that wonderful quote from George Bernard Shaw. There's nothing in man's industry but his greed and his sloth. His heart is in his weapons. And it certainly is true. All right, let's turn to the domestic politics because there's a lot going on there. Devin Nunes is out there saying that the Department of Justice and the FBI are stalling turning over documents in the hope the GOP will lose the House in the midterm elections, or to be more accurate, the Democrats will steal the House in the midterm elections with all those illegal immigrant voters here. But that's exactly what's going on. If the Democrats get the House of Representatives, the cover-up has succeeded. Everybody's career is safe. The corruption will continue. So it's really important, if you're a GOP voter, get out there on those midterms, because voter turnout on the midterms tends to be low, and the Democrats are counting on you staying home. Don't do that. Make sure you're registered to vote and get on out there and vote. All right, we're going to take a break here for commercials, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. So Tucker Carlson was out with a report talking about all of this brouhaha over Michael Cohen. And this idea that whether or not Trump knew about his campaign's meeting with a Russian lawyer at Trump Tower. And as Tucker Carlson says, where's the crime? Now, supposedly, this Russian lawyer offered to provide dirt on Hillary Clinton, like there isn't enough already floating around this country. But again, where's the crime? The Clinton campaign paid a foreign national named Christopher Steele to gather damaging information on Trump from other foreign nationals, including Russians. There really isn't a crime there. They're trying to smear Trump with it to make it look like he's evil, that he's colluding with the Russians. But again, collusion itself is not a crime. There's no law against collusion on the books. It just doesn't exist. Now, an interesting little article came out of Russia Today saying, with Michael Cohen as his personal attorney, Donald Trump needs no enemies. And it's basically painting a picture of just how desperate and pathetic this witch hunt against Trump has become. And Trump's personal attorney, former personal attorney, comes along to say, yeah, Trump did this, Trump did that. There was that audio tape of, discussing buying the rights to this former Playboy Playmate story. Apparently, she was out there marketing it, and a media institution had bought it, and Trump wanted to buy it away from them, which is a perfectly legitimate thing. Again, there is no crime there. Now, Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is saying that the feds confiscated 183 recordings made by Michael Cohen. Trump is only on one of them. But that's the one they wanted. That's the pay dirt. Going to get that on out there. Now, we've talked about Michael Cohen basically having ended his career here. He violated attorney-client privilege. Certainly all of his clients who are now aware he's been recording them, they're not going to trust him any longer. It turns out that Cohen had a vendetta against Donald Trump. This is coming out of Page 6. And apparently Michael Cohen just sort of assumed that after Donald Trump won the election, that Michael Cohen, was going to get a job in the campaign and ultimately the White House. In fact, Cohen thought he deserved to be campaign manager when Paul Manafort was kicked out. Then apparently he thought he should be Trump's chief of staff or White House counsel. And people who know Michael Cohen are saying he's very bitter that he didn't get the job. And that may have been the lever that Rosenstein used to basically pry information out of him. Now, Cohen used to tell people he went to law school in Michigan, implying he got his degree from the highly rated University of Michigan. In fact, Michael Cohen graduated from the Thomas M. Cooley Law School, now affiliated with Western Michigan University, and recently ranked the worst law school in the country by the National Advisory Council for Law School Transparency. Which may be why he doesn't really understand how much he's damaged his own career with his actions. Nobody's going to trust him. Nobody's going to share confidential information with him. Cohen's attitude seems to be that once I'm no longer working for you, I can spill your secrets all over the place. Well, nobody's going to hire him in the first place with an attitude like that. What happens in the lawyer's office stays in the lawyer's office. A lawyer with a reputation for blabbing secrets after, the client leaves is not going to see any clients coming in that door. Okay, the Daily Caller News Foundation and Judicial Watch have asked a federal judge to order the Department of Justice to preserve all of former FBI Director James Comey's personal emails that were related to 2 Freedom of Information Act requests. And both groups filed their motion before U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia Judge Kolar Kotelly, who was nominated by former President Ronald Reagan. Now, Judicial Watch and the Daily Caller had to file suit against the Justice Department as part of the Freedom of Information Act requests, which Department of Justice, and for that matter the FBI, are simply refusing to honor, even though the law says non-classified documents are to be given to any public interest groups or interested private citizens who request them. That's the way it's supposed to work. They have no legal foundation for withholding them. They're just trying to drag out the clock. We'll be right back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, yesterday, House Intelligence Committee Chair Devin Nunes said the American people will be shocked when the redacted portion of Carter Page's FISA warrant application is revealed. And he said, we are quite confident that once the American people see these 20 pages, at least for those that will get real reporting on this issue, little dig at the corporate media on his part, they will be shocked by what's in the FISA application. He's basically implying the public may soon see an unredacted or at least a less redacted copy. Now, the word that we're getting is the redactions were all about protecting the image of the FBI. And we've got people like Representative Gates is out there saying what we've got here, what they're starting to uncover is already far worse than Watergate. And they're working really hard to dig it on out. And of course, the Democrats, they're scared. And they are trying to drag out the release of any more information. They're literally betting the future of their party and whether or not they go to jail on retaking the House of Representatives. So it's a guarantee they're going to cheat. They're going to get all the illegals in there they can to vote and vote Democratic. And they're going to try and steal that House of Representatives so they can shut all these investigations down. And then life will go on as it has been here. Now, there's an interesting article. This came out of Spiked Online. Why young white men are abandoning the Democrats. And apparently, Reuters Ipsos did a poll that revealed Democrats are shedding millennial votes, with support dropping by 9 percentage points just since 2016. And the shift is most pronounced among white millennial men, who now favor Republicans over Democrats by 11 percentage points. Now, in 2016, Democrats led Republicans in this demographic by 12 percentage points. So that's a staggering swing of 23 percentage points in just 2 years. Now, the commentary that was in this article says that the poll basically disposes of a couple of assumptions. The first assumption is that young people are naturally drawn to the Democrats. Second, that the chaos and incompetence of Donald Trump's rule are not enough to turn voters blue. And 2/3 of those polled dislike Trump. That distaste does not translate into either a rejection of the GOP as a whole or onto support as the Democrats. Well, I'll tell you what's really obvious here. White males have come under attack by the liberal Democrats. We're being demonized, we're being marginalized, we're being accused of all kinds of things, constantly smeared. We've become the new scapegoat group for the liberal Democrats. So, of course, why would we support them? Now, here's another little article, and this gets right to the heart of it. This came from unheard.com, and it says, liberal smugness will destroy the left. And apparently, they're quoting this Emmett Renson, who did an essay for the Vox website. And he says, there's a smug style in American liberalism. It's been growing for 2 decades. It's a way of conducting politics predicated on the belief that American life is not divided by moral differences or policy divisions, but by the failure of half the country to know what's good for them. In other words, the liberals have this unshakable sense they are right, no matter what the facts, logic, law, or evidence may indicate. It's turned into a cult. And yeah, they are out there with that smug little attitude, we're right, and you're just too stupid to understand us and see the world the way it is. Well, the world the liberals are crafting, of course, as you know, is a world where men are allowed to use the ladies' room, but straws are now banned. So it's getting a little out there. Okay, Maxine Waters is out there again. Basically, she gave an interview to CNBC last Wednesday, on which she urged even more riots against President Trump and anyone who supports him. And then she responded to questions about her intelligence by saying that any criticism of her intelligence is rooted in racism. So she went on to say, I think he's dangerous. I don't know why people take it. I think people should be out in the streets screaming to the top of their voice, do something, make something happen. Now, incitement to violence is a crime. And under the Supreme Court decision, Brandenburg versus Ohio, it is not protected by the First Amendment. Why is this woman not in handcuffs? Why are all these liberal Democrats and has-been celebrities basically out there screaming and calling literally for the death of the president? And they're getting away with it, and the corporate media is giving them airtime for it. It's obscene. Ireland is actually going to send a team of election observers to monitor this November's midterm congressional elections. And this is a reversal of its previous position that it did not focus on monitoring the conduct of democratic elections in the EU, the US, or Canada. Well, it's good that there's going to be some monitors. We need a lot of monitors. But as long as we have those electronic machines, whether it's the voting machines at the polling places or the electronic machines that count the ballots, monitors can't see inside to know that what's going on is honest. And I'm in agreement with those who are saying it's time for those electronic machines to go and to go back to a manual ballot system. And again, if you go to my webpage, right up at the top, right underneath my picture, there's an article, How to Have Honest Elections. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's a lot better than what we've got right now. It's going to make it very easy to spot election fraud. It's going to make it very hard to commit election fraud. That's the complete reversal of our current system, which seems designed to facilitate and then conceal massive election fraud. And it's time to stop. We're not going to get our country back until we get honest elections. That's the necessary first step. Well, apparently TSA, deciding that they don't have anything better to do, are now surveilling ordinary, law-abiding American travelers with air marshals. It's a new program called Quiet Skies, and it monitors U.S. citizens with no prior criminal record and who don't have any red flags when they go through security. These are people who TSA at the gate is saying these people are okay, yet they're still being surveilled and spied on. Now, according to a TSA memo cited by the Boston Globe, who wrote this article, the people being surveilled and followed in the program are not under investigation by any agency. They're not in the terrorist screening database. It's just ordinary people like you, like me, who have done nothing wrong, and the government still wants to spy on us. George Orwell, pick up the white courtesy telephone. So let's talk a little bit about the economic news. Over in the European Union, the European Commission has decided to back off on their war on cash, basically admitting that physical cash is not quite the source of all evil that many EU institutions, including the Commission itself, had made it out to be. And it's basically abandoned its war on cash. And basically, they concluded cash restrictions would have little effect on terrorist financing. Cash restrictions could be useful in combating money laundering, but are of limited help against tax fraud. And of course, the final one, the people of Europe don't want cash cashless society or limits on cash. And as I've said before, I've lost count of the number of times that Claire and I have gone down to our local supermarket or a burger place or all kinds of places around here. And those electronic machines will be down and people will be standing there holding those little plastic cards, stuck, not able to do anything. And because we prefer to pay in cash, we'll get our burgers, our groceries, and we'll go home happy. All right. Article out of Zero Hedge, why Americans are about to experience sharply higher prices. And basically, they're talking about the fact that the price jumps linked to the tariffs are already starting to hit the consumer level. And I know this because yesterday I had to go down to the Office Depot and buy some office supplies, and the prices had really jumped by about 20% because so much of what we buy is still being made in China and not produced here in the U.S. So we're already starting to feel the pinch. Apparently, Donald Trump is a big fan of Coca-Cola, and he's going to be paying a little bit more for that six-pack because of the tariffs on the aluminum that goes into those cans. Now, as you know, and I realize I'm not supposed to say that it's racist or something, but Russia has been selling off its U.S. treasuries. It's buying gold like crazy. At this point, they have sold off 80% of their U.S. treasuries. They're moving out of the market. They're not a major player in U.S. treasuries. A lot of countries are doing that as well. Presumably, the Federal Reserve is trying to buy them all up with instantly created money. But Russia has now bailed on 80% of their treasuries. They're now the world's largest holder of gold. In fact, the level of gold reserves in Russia is approaching the Stalin-era record. They're getting ready to cut their dependence on the U.S. dollar. A lot of countries are. Now, over at Tesla, boy, it's just one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. There's another lawsuit for Tesla. And according to Bloomberg, 3 former retail employees of SolarCity, the solar panel installer acquired by Tesla in November of 2016 under controversial circumstances and allegations of less than arm's-length dealings between related parties, have sued Tesla, alleging that managers discriminated against them on the basis of age or sexual orientation, resulting in their termination this year. And according to a lawsuit filed in a San Diego state court, one plaintiff said he complained to management, including Musk, about harassment related to his sexual orientation. He was subsequently fired on May 31st. A 59-year-old plaintiff is suing after being fired and then replaced by a significantly younger individual that was less than 30 years old. Now, I don't know the actual circumstances of what's going on. I do know that a lot of retailers are engaging the practice of letting go their higher paid workers, who also tend to be those with more seniority, and replacing them with lower paid workers. I remember we used to have a Circuit City down here at the bottom of the hill. And as you know, I loathe Best Buy. So I used to go into Circuit City all the time, and the staff at the time was friendly and knowledgeable. I could go on in and speak tech to them, and they would speak tech to me. And then all of a sudden, I walk into Circuit City, and it's a whole new staff of kids. And I'm trying to talk to them about what I need, and I just get a blank stare back. And not surprisingly, that Circuit City is no longer there. It's been replaced by a Bed Bath & Beyond. Now, Zuckerberg and Facebook have been slapped with a lawsuit for failing to warn investors of slowing growth. Apparently, the warning signs were out there. There had even been accusations that Facebook executives were dumping their own stock weeks before the big kaboinga that happened last week. So they're now being sued by shareholder James Koukouris in Manhattan Federal Court, and it could be the first of many claims over this disappointing earnings announcement. Now, Facebook is also dealing with dozens of lawsuits over its handling of user data in connection with Cambridge Analytica, and many of those lawsuits have been consolidated in the federal court in San Francisco. So Facebook is in trouble, and they did it to themselves with this idea that they had some kind of a right to try and meddle with the political process by censoring conservatives and promoting liberals, that they could spy on us who are using the site and sell that data inappropriately. So Facebook's user numbers are way down. Article out of Lizadissu, basically talking about how business tax payments plunge while workers pay more. And it is a mechanism we're seeing throughout the U.S. economy where corporations and businesses are paying less and less taxes, and the burden is being shifted on to the workers, which is going to accelerate wealth inequality. Now, Jeff Bezos has come on out with, well, actually, the Washington Post came on out with an article written by Roger Lowenstein, and it says, you know, this wealth inequality, that's the wrong metric. You shouldn't be thinking about that at all. You know, don't worry about all those billionaires here. The important thing to keep in mind is that your children have the possibility that they can move upward during their lives. Slight possibility, but maybe, possibly could move upward in life. That's what you should focus on, and ignore all that money piled up around the billionaires. You shouldn't be thinking about that. So that's what the latest from the Washington Compost. We got to take a break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux is really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting in a red color, but thankfully there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the economic news. And the sanctions on Iran are having an effect. And, of course, there are about to be more sanctions hitting them. Iran's rial has plunged against the U.S. dollar. And Iranians are scrambling to acquire other means to store their wealth, including U.S. dollars themselves. And the unofficial black market rate stood at 102,000 rials against a single U.S. dollar. Now, the rial has lost half of its value against the U.S. dollar over the last 4 months, breaking through the 50,000 to 1 mark in March for the first time. Now, back in April, Tehran deployed a series of measures to try and stop the slide, including firing the governor of the central bank, fixing the rial at 42,000, and threatening to crack down on the black market traders. So we'll see what's going to happen over there. Turkey, as you know, has been pivoting away from the United States ever since that failed coup d'etat attempt. And now they're starting to approach the BRICS nation. And they're saying they want to sign up. They want to add a T to BRICS, turn it into BRICS. And Erdogan has called on leaders of the BRICS nations to basically allow Turkey's accession to the group. And we may see more of that. Over in Iran, Hossein Ashuri, who's the deputy director of the Islamic Republic of Iran Railways, was in an interview in Sputnik News saying how the sanctions imposed on Russia and Iran are not going to have an effect on relations between the two countries. If anything, it's going to drive them together, and will not affect the planned Russia-Iran railway project. They're getting ready to build a whole new rail line, basically to communicate between Russia and Iran. So they're moving forward with that project here. Over in Great Britain, there is more and more talk of a hard Brexit. The Remainers are still out there saying, no, 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 we've got to kiss and make up with the EU. You have the Brexit in name only people like Theresa May saying, well, we're going to have a Brexit, but we're still going to be part of the common market, and we're still going to be have the open borders with the EU and all the rest of that. But more and more people in the general population are saying it's time for a hard Brexit. Now, if that were to happen, if the Brexit happens and there's no deal with the EU, Britain is going to be cut off from a lot of supplies that they normally would get from the EU. And they're already starting to stockpile critical materials, and the Army is on standby to deliver key supplies of food, fuel, and medicines in the event of a no-deal scenario. This is something that they usually reserve for civil emergencies like severe weather, where the far-flung parts of the UK are basically cut off. So they're making plans to basically go ahead with a hard Brexit. All right, we're going to take a break for station identification. Back with hour number 2 after these few words.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking about the furor over Brexit, where the Remainers still want to remain. They're screaming there's got to be a second referendum. We didn't cheat hard enough in the first one. We deserve a second try. You have the soft Brexiteers who are basically aiming for a Brexit in name only, and trying to keep Great Britain tangled up in the EU as much as possible. And now there is a growing chorus of voices calling for a hard Brexit, to just say, to heck with it all. We're going to restore our borders, go back to our own policies, and the EU has nothing to say about anything here. And I'm sure that in the event of a hard Brexit, the EU would throw a tantrum or two, but they'd go back to making trade deals with Great Britain. Meanwhile, over in Italy, their Interior Minister Salvini, who's a critic of the EU, and he blames a lot of Italy's problems on the euro and the open borders situation. And he's basically sent a warning that the European Union is deceiving Great Britain with regards to the euro. He said there's no objectivity or good faith on the European side. And he says Theresa May should take a tougher stance on negotiations. And he is saying that it's time for a hard Brexit. Just forget about the deal, because the EU is not negotiating in good faith anyway. Here's an interesting little story, and it regards to open borders. And the story came on out of Breitbart. This one's going to really wake you up here. Apparently over in Great Britain, the UK Home Office has been rejecting Syrian Christians. The refugee intake into Great Britain is 100% Muslim. And it's being called a national disgrace. And apparently the Sunday Times was trying to find out what was going on. And the numbers came out of a group called the Barnabas Fund, which is an aid agency supporting Christians persecuted for their faith. And they got the information via Freedom of Information Act, the British equivalent, after a long tussle with the Home Office. So, more of George Soros' machinations here. Up in Sweden and Denmark, they had a poll and found that nearly half of the Swedes and the Danes said they'd rather be in a Nordic union with their neighbors from Norway and Finland and Iceland than in the EU. They think a union is a good thing, just not that one. So the EU experiment is definitely here in trouble. Over in Germany, support for the German Christian Democratic Union, which is led by current Chancellor Angela Merkel, and its Bavarian sister party, Christian Social Union, have fallen to a 12-year low, according to the latest poll by MNID. So it is coming apart. The people of Europe have just had it between the ECB, EU tinkering in the internal affairs of the member states, and the open borders issue. They've had it. All right, we have a caller on the line. Jason in Tucson, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, thank you, Michael. Just going back to the topic you were talking about a few minutes ago about using cash at the grocery stores when the system goes down.
Yep.
I'd just like to remind people that about a year and a half or so ago in northern Arizona, somebody in the middle of the desert dug up and cut the internet line with a big, like industrial laser cutter. It shut down large portions of northern Arizona. The grocery stores, since their cash registers are tied into corporate through the internet, it shut everything down. They didn't even use cash. They literally just shut the doors. So even if you have cash, it's better to have something on hand at home, I guess.
Well, at our supermarket, again, their cash registers are also tied in with corporate, but apparently their computers have local drives that record all the transactions for a one-time download or upload, as it were, in the middle of the night. So they were able to do cash transactions. And, you know...
That's great. I mean, I wish all places were that way, but I'm just saying, when they did that in Arizona, that's what happened. They shut almost the entire northern end of the state shut down. It was basically all the little mom and pop shops and the little Circle K's, the convenience stores that stayed open. But I just wanted to point that out to people. It's not always going to work, when it shuts down.
Okay, well, again, my experiences here on Hawaii has been that when those computer cash registers go down, cash is definitely king.
Hey, well, thank you, Michael. Have a good day.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Donald Trump is back pushing for his border wall, and he's calling on Congress to basically fix the immigration laws and saying the Democrats have to cooperate. Otherwise, he will allow the federal government to shut down. And he's saying, I would be willing to shut down government if the Democrats do not give us the votes for border security, which includes the wall. Now, his comment about new immigration laws, we already have immigration laws. They're not being enforced. And that's one of the problems that we have with government in general. They advertise themselves to you by saying, we're going to pass a law. You're unhappy about this. We're going to pass a new law, ignoring the fact that there are already laws against a lot of what's going on that simply are not enforced. Title 8. Look at Title 8 sometime. If Title 8 were being enforced, Trump would not need a border wall. Because Title 8 makes it a crime to transport, house, give employment to, or any assistance to an illegal immigrant. And if that were being enforced, if enough people went to jail over that, the financial incentive to the illegals would dry up. That's all it takes to stop the problem, is simply say, if you're an illegal immigrant, you are not entitled to free stuff at taxpayer expense. You're not allowed to work. You're not allowed to have housing. You're not allowed to have anything at all. Just go home. That's it. Meanwhile, Maxine Waters is out there saying that Trump is only bluffing and he's bullying, about this government shutdown over the border wall. I don't know, Maxine. I wouldn't call his bluff on this one. I mean, the immigration problem is out of control, both here and in Europe. And look at all the damage it's doing. Now, Democratic Representative Ben Ray Lujan, who is the Democrat Congressional Campaign Committee chair, was interviewed on This Week. And Martha Raddatz pressed him on the question of whether Democrats really want to abolish the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And Ben Ray Lujan just ducked the question. He avoided it twice. And at the end, Ohio Republican Representative Steve Stivers pointed out to Martha that Lujan did not answer the question. And Raddatz agreed. The Democrats are desperate to flood this nation with illegal immigrants. They're going to offer them all kinds of free stuff that you are going to be forced to pay for so they can get their votes. That's it. From the Democratic point of view, they're fighting for their careers, their freedom. They want that House of Representatives in order to shut down all of these investigations. So, come November, we're really going to have to push to get out the vote for the Republicans. Any Republicans, I don't care which one. Just get out and vote Republican. Now, over in Kentucky, a Democratic candidate, Hank Linderman, who's challenging Representative Brett Guthrie in November, has come on out demanding amnesty for all undocumented immigrants. And he's out there saying, I'm calling for action to help the millions of undocumented people already working in our communities, serving in our military, and raising families by granting amnesty. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Linderman, they shouldn't be working in our communities. That's a Title VIII violation. And the military has started letting the illegal immigrants go. They canceled that program. And they shouldn't be raising families here either. They're plopping out the kids in order to have an anchor baby. Some of these girls are coming across the border already pregnant, just trying to get in, have the baby, and then they get to stay. This is utterly ridiculous. Now, Bernie Sanders is out there talking about a Medicare for All plan. And when you factor in all the illegal immigrants who have all these anchor babies and basically chain migration, if you will, you're looking at a cost of $32.6 trillion over 10 years. We just don't have it. We don't have it. Over in Philadelphia, they have now declared themselves a sanctuary city. They are refusing to cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. When is somebody going to have the gonadal tissue to go into one of these sanctuary cities and slap the handcuffs on the mayor and say, you are in violation of Title VIII, you are going to go to jail and to trial? I mean, we all know what's going on. Even Tucker Carlson was out with an episode on how the Democrats are working to steal the 2018 and 2020 elections by using illegal immigrant voters. And illegal immigrants are not allowed to vote, certainly in the national elections. We're seeing all these communities like San Francisco, they're saying, well, it's okay for them to vote in like the school board. And next it'll be congressional representation. Although there's a federal law against that. But the open borders people are already in flagrant violation of the existing law. The fact that it's, you know, there's a federal law against having an illegal immigrant vote in a national election won't stop them. Because without voter ID, there's no way to know that somebody is an illegal immigrant. And that's something else that we need to be doing to try and get this country back under the control of the American people. An honest election system and voter ID so that only U.S. citizens vote. Because that's the way it was set up. That's the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to throw open the gates to the barbarian hordes and have them come on in and vote themselves all kinds of bread and circuses at our expense, which is exactly what's going on. Because that's the lure the Democrats are using. Vote for us, we'll take stuff away from those white people and we'll give it to you. That's the promise. All righty, over in Great Britain, there was a young boy, Jacob Abraham, was stabbed to death near his Hertfordshire home last year, was found dying by his brother near their home in Waltham Cross. And his killers were handed life sentences at the Old Bailey, and the killers' names are Kai Fisher Dixon, Shaub Mohammed, Tremaine Gray, Omarion Stevens, and Abdullah Quilik Mohammed. And the murdered youngster had helped his mother make sandwiches for the homeless people just hours before he was killed. So how's that multicultural thing working out for you over there? Over in France, migrants have been arrested for gang raping a middle-aged woman on World Cup night. And the woman was found with a badly swollen face in the commune of Oudon in the Loire-Atlantique department the following morning. And locals are horrified by the crime. And basically, the female residents are telling reporters they're afraid to go jogging in the evening now because it's like open season on them. Now, Italy is starting to toughen up. They want a zero-tolerance policy for criminal asylum seekers. In other words, people who have a criminal record are going to be automatically denied asylum. That's one of the things that really went wrong with this whole refugee program, is known criminals were being allowed in. And you think, what, coming across that border into Europe, they will see the light and they will change their ways. Not really. It's not been the experience so far. Steve Bannon is planning to lead a populist revolt throughout Europe, which, were it to succeed, would crush George Soros and his network of open border NGOs. This is according to the Daily Beast. And Bannon will set up a Brussels-based nonprofit NGO called simply The Movement, which will go head-to-head with Soros with the goal of uniting like-minded European parties and conservative think tanks along with other support structures. Nigel Farage thinks this is a really good idea, that the Bannon plan could help populists to EU election victory. Because the EU and Soros, they don't like populist candidates. They want candidates who are going to go along with the agenda. All righty. Over in Austria, there is this group called the Identitarian Movement. And 17 of their activists were accused of forming a criminal hate speech organization under the country's mafia law, because they were criticizing the open border policy. That was it. Trying to silence them by arresting them, suing them, sending them to jail. They have now been found innocent on all the charges. Apparently, 2 of them had to pay a minor fine for some damage that occurred during their protest. But it basically reasserts that people in a country who are being made uncomfortable by the open borders policy have a legitimate right to say, I don't like this. I don't like what's happening to our country here. Now, last week, there was this open borders activist, Ellen Urson, who made a big stink on an airplane on which there was a man who was being deported. And she got up and refused to sit down, and they almost called the cops on her. Finally, they got her to sit on down, and the plane took off. And she was being lauded as a heroine by the open borders people. She took a stand against deportation here. Turns out the guy that she was defending from deportation, 52-year-old Afghan man, was convicted of abuse and sentenced to jail. It was a criminal. The open borders people are defending criminals. They may not know it, but that's the crime right there. They don't know what they're doing. They do not know what they're doing. Now, the New York Times, or the New York Slimes, has come out with a blast at my home state, New Hampshire, as well as Vermont and Maine, basically saying, you know, they're bad because they're nearly all white. And in a piece titled New Hampshire, 94% white, asks, how do you diversify a whole state? And the New York Times chronicles the supposed hardship of immigrants who allegedly do not have the comfort and support of a built-in community in states like New Hampshire because their populations are too white. And the New York Times interviewed immigrant Catalina Celentano, who complained that when she moved to New Hampshire, she could not speak Spanish often because the state was 94% white. Okay, Catalina, you're not supposed to speak Spanish in New Hampshire. They speak English. They have a New England accent. They speak English. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We've got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customers. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network, thank you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just scratch yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far 5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job in one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America, welcome back to the show. And before we take this phone call, I want to read you a quote that has a bearing on the story about this Spanish or Mexican immigrant up in New Hampshire bemoaning the fact that nobody up there speaks Spanish. They're not supposed to. This is the quote. In the first place, we should insist that if the immigrant who comes here in good faith becomes an American and assimilates himself to us, he shall be treated on an exact equality with everyone else, for it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed or birthplace or origin. But this is predicated upon the person's becoming in every facet an American and nothing but an American. There can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he's an American but something else also isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. We have room here for but one loyalty, and that is loyalty to the American people. That was Theodore Roosevelt back in 1907. And it's absolutely true. So, for these immigrants, even the illegal immigrants, they'll come on over and they start complaining that we're not speaking their native language. We're not supposed to. All right, let's take a phone call. Dennis in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. I've been trying to find a window of opportunity to give you a call. First of all, thank you for some of your health-related issues you posted as one who is now recently battling cancer in Florida. And I want to thank you for posting what you put up there. It has helped me immeasurably what the doctors cannot answer or what they don't want to let you know. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome.
That article about New Hampshire and speaking Spanish, as a former New Yorker who has traveled to visit relatives that were up in New Hampshire, they speak differently from New Yorkers even.
Yes.
So I suggest that maybe these people have to get educated. We have different dialects here. We don't need another one. And regarding illegal aliens, and I noticed one of the articles today listed, and they mentioned illegal aliens who are also serving in our military. Well, I became aware of this back in probably around 1980, 82. I had a Colombian girlfriend whose son was in the military, but it was the National Guard, I came to find out. And his comrades' nickname for the service was the white man's army. And it became apparent to me then, as I've been watching this whole scenario unfold, we are raising a nation of insurgents. You might say, I'm looking for the word. What would you call Hessian soldiers? What do we call Hessian soldiers? Mercenaries, yes. We are inhabited by insurgents and mercenaries that we have brought into our own country and trained them militarily. Whereas, unless you're from like Georgia or down south, which, a lot of your southern youth are very encouraged to join the military. A lot of New York kids aren't, and so we're seeing a decline in the so-called Caucasian members of the military, whereas this foreign mercenary force is building over the last 30 years.
Well, it's come to an end. It's come to an end because these illegal immigrants were lured into the Army by a program that offered them citizenship at the conclusion of their tour of duty. But the program got canceled. Apparently, the military decided that these illegal immigrants were just marking time to get their citizenship, and they weren't really committed or capable fighters. So the program ended, and now the Army is basically discharging all of these illegal immigrants.
I just hope the damage isn't already done. One more quick note, Mike. Everybody's talking about Trump threatening to shut down the government over immigration. I think they took his comments out of context. From what I heard him, the way he explained it, let's shut down the immigration. And I think that we need to explore that further. And that's all I want to say. And just to say thank you again, Michael. Your articles have proved invaluable to me.
Well, I'm very glad that they were helpful, and good luck with your recovery.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Okay. We've got more callers waiting on the line, but we're coming up on a commercial break, so I'm going to put them on hold here. And again, we have this bizarre liberal academia where using the phrase "as you know" is now considered being white and racist because it's leading to self-doubt in those people who don't know. Well, there's an easy fix for that. Don't ban the phrase, study harder. Actually teach these kids what they need to know instead of filling their head with all of this nonsense about which restroom to use. We're going to take a break for commercials, back with phone calls after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones. Francis in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha to you both. I've got a bit of a stickler with you that
didn't make any logical sense for someone who's highly illogical. And you probably covered this a while back. I just do not recall. So you'll have to bear with me for a moment, my dear. For one thing, someone who is illegally immigrating here in the U.S. from another country, obviously south of the border, as it were, not to make a bad pun out of it, cannot go and just automatically put in for voter registration just to vote or whatever have you. They're missing something in the process. What that is?
Well, actually, in many states like California, when they apply for a driver's license, they're automatically registered to vote. And there is no mechanism there for, putting their immigration status either on the driver's license or the voter registration. And you can bet that probably the Democratic operatives are going through the neighborhoods where the illegals are and registering them to vote.
Okay, as I was about to say was, regardless of what political party is going out and doing the shenanigans, the fault of the whole situation resides with the DOT. I don't care what state it is. Because unless the person goes to the DOT and gets a state-approved ID, let alone a driver's license, they cannot put in for voting. So even if a political party goes and tries to pull that maneuver and obtaining that for them, then that political party is running afoul of the legal state law.
Yeah, they are.
So quite frankly, a lot of them need to be pulled as a result, or what is it called? I'm trying to find the word for it when you nullify such a legal document the DOT issues, for that matter, so the person can go and conduct their everyday life or whatever have you, whatever it might be, and so forth. Now, if the state of California, let alone Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, obviously south of the border or whatever, or even Florida for that matter, mind you, are issuing these things illegally, then that state is at fault. They need to clean up their act, regardless of who the politician is pulling the strings in behind the door, for that matter, for these things to occur. And for the people that are being given this stuff, they need to be escorted right back to where they came from and say, okay, you want to be a U.S. citizen? Then go through the legal channel and do that. Just don't go and think that you're going to get issued this by some politician and welcome to the grand old U.S. of A., which it's not anymore. So with that said, I'm out of here.
All right. Well, Francis, before you go, you need to understand that quite a few states do not require people to be legal citizens to get a driver's license. And that's the loophole. And they're coming on in. And like I said, in California, when you get a driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. And what's really amazing is the hoops they make us legal citizens jump through to renew our driver's license. We got to show a birth certificate. We got to show a social security card. We got to do all that stuff to prove our identity. And yet the illegal immigrants are getting driver's licenses without any of that documentation. I don't know how that works.
Hang on a second. Did you forget about one other documentation that they have to have on them in order to come into the U.S. or upon entering the U.S.? It's called a green card. Unless they change the color of it, they have to have some sort of documentation saying about where they're coming from, who they are, and so forth before they can even go to DOT. Unless I have mistakenly miscalled it a green card or something else. But they have to have some sort of issuance of some ID card in order to come into the U.S. Otherwise, how to get past the border?
They walk over.
You can't even go.
Yeah, they walk over, where they think the border guards are not going to be. And they come on in, and these various groups literally will show up with a bus to pick them up and take them on out to these sanctuary cities. I mean, it's a complete giveaway of our country by these open border individuals. Anyway, listen. Okay. Anything else, Francis?
That's it. Just curious about the illogical nature of the whole mess. They need to get their act together, as it were, but I could say worse than that.
Yeah,
Later.
It's illogical. It's also illegal. But again, as we've been seeing all along, the Democrats and the open border enthusiasts, they're not concerned with the law. Remember that article we were talking about, liberal smugness? We know we're right no matter what. And there's a lot of that at work here, where they're trying to equate open borders with the ending of slavery and saying, well, we knew that slavery was wrong even though it was legal, therefore we're justified in defying and violating this law, which discriminates against non-citizens. That's what borders are supposed to do. There is a legal way to become a citizen in this country. Just walking across the border is not it. All right, back to the phones. Dustin in New Jersey, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I got to change, so it's not just liberals. It's like they're just all globalists. Because John McCain's not liberal, but he's for open borders.
Yep.
That's why he keeps getting elected. You know, I mean, it's what Mike, as you know, Mike, with the BRICS, Erdogan himself said it's time to add a T to the BRICS. Now, how they're going to add that? Wow, you're seeing a serious shift now. And I said Turkey is a very important country because of the Bosphorus Straits.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, yeah, them and Germany, man. I'm telling you that they're probably going to flip because it's just economic sense for Turkey at this point. If they join BRICS, man, let me tell you, because I looked at a couple of economists they were very shaky on the BRICS of how it was going to do, and they came out and said it's doing better than they would have ever imagined. So it is moving forward, and the Shanghai Co-op. So there is a changing guard going on. It might not happen as fast as we want, you know, but it is happening.
Yes.
And Mike, did you see that Iran might be using cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, to evade the sanctions.
Do you think that's going to work, the cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, I think it could work. I think all Iran needs to do is find out ways to complete financial transactions that don't go through the SWIFT system or through the U.S. dollar, and the sanctions become impotent. The sense I'm getting from all of these countries around the world is they're pretty much fed up with the U.S. throwing its weight around with these sanctions.
And remember, wasn't Turkey buying oil from Iran in exchange for gold? So they can do their own deals. Like, I don't understand. Like, the sanctions are only the U.S. puts on, right?
Well, the U.S. tries to get other countries to go along with the sanctions or recognize the sanctions, and in the past, most countries have. Now they're starting to bridle at that, which is why Trump and Pompeo are having to arm twist the European Union to go along with this, because the EU is being harmed by all these sanctions against Russia, and they're going to be harmed by sanctions against Iran. And the EU is already in enough trouble as it is, and they're really kind of fed up with that.
What about Iran joining BRICS also? You know, because, you know, China and Russia, between them, Iran, Turkey, I mean, there's a lot of trade to go between them. So, you know, regardless of what the U.S. or the EU puts on them, you know, China is like, well, Eurasia is like half the world's population. So I don't see a problem with them moving, you know, if the sanctions the U.S. and EU put on them, they still have that other part of the world to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they really do. You know, right now, India is the largest consumer of Iran's oil, and Germany's actually telling India, keep on buying Iran's oil. You know, you got to keep on buying that oil. And so we're starting to see that this U.S.-centric hegemonic economy is starting to fall apart. And other countries are going their own way. They're using their own currencies. Some countries are resorting to barter to get around the sanctions. I'll give you so much oil and you give me so much tea.
That's a good thing, because doesn't that breed entrepreneurship where they internally will create, you know, businesses, and they'll have more employees, and then they'll spread out. I mean, I think that's like Russia, the sanctions help them. Help them to diversify their whole economy.
Yeah, actually,
you know?
Russia bounced back. They had a resilient economy. The oil price war didn't harm them as much as it harmed Europe. But yeah, it sent a message, not just to Russia, but to all the countries on the planet. Learn how to be self-sufficient. Break away from this idea of globalism where all the cars are made in this one place and all the electronics are made in this one place and all the clothing is made in this one place and you're all bound together by all this global trade. People are seeing that's now a broken political model, and they want to go back to being self-sufficient, independent nations.
And that leads me, Mike, to the $14.2 or $14.5 billion left of Russia's treasuries that they have. Now, that's got to be a warning sign for the United States, because once they go get rid of them all, I don't think it'll ever buy them again. I really don't.
I don't think they will. I think most investors understand there is a treasury bond bubble. And the U.S. government is basically struggling to make those payments on those treasury bonds. And the yield curve has inverted, which usually signals a recession. But I think these other countries are realizing these bonds are, in fact, quite risky.
I think China's got, what, $1 trillion left? 1.2 maybe in treasuries, but what is it?
1.3 trillion. If they were to dump those all at once, that would be the end of it.
But you do know that they're not buying properties here commercially. They slow down big time because it's a bubble also.
Yes.
So they're all getting out now.
Yep.
It's just not being advertised. Hey, Mike, real quick. Did you ever heard of, I want to switch gears on something called photonic radar?
Yes.
The Russians are working on, and
yes.
It uses laser pulse. Yeah, I don't really understand. There's not too much information on it out there. I can't find. But I don't know if you can explain a little. I'll get off the air and listen.
Well, it's really very simple. Instead of using radio waves to search for an incoming threat, they're using optics. And as Dustin was saying, it basically sends out a laser beam that hits an object, and there's a reflection that comes on back to the radar site. And the advantage of it is that stealth technology doesn't work against it. The disadvantage is that you have to have clear skies to use it and very little turbulence. The more turbulent the atmosphere is, the shorter the range that this will work. But yeah, it's an idea that's been floating around the defense establishment for more than a few years now. But its primary advantage is it can see things like the F-35 and the B-2. All right, let's see. We're going to go back to the phones. Mark in North Carolina, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing there, Mike? Mike, I think we've got some good news about Facebook. I think they're starting to fold. They're starting to cave.
Yeah.
This morning I tried to get Real News by David Knight and a couple other things on Facebook, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it on YouTube. I finally got it on something else where I was in the car, but it didn't come out. But anyway, a little while ago I saw that Facebook came on and said that with War Room with Owen Schroyer is on now, InfoWars and all that, and sure enough. So evidently, I think what's happened is they see what's happening to their stock. They see it looks to me like they're about to go under. Twitter also, and they're starting to cave, and they're starting to, which is good, is really great. Nothing like cutting off that money to really start making these people perform. I think it should go even further. I think you need antitrust action against these companies, but this is a good start. This seems to be, maybe finally Zuckerberg got the message when, he looks at the stock plunging, what was it, over 25% or something like that. I think it went down again today.
Yes.
And I think that's fine. The fact that bingo, InfoWars is on there again. So, what do you think? Do you think I'm right or what?
I think it would be nice if corporate social media would go back to respecting the First Amendment and stop playing God with American politics. I don't know if this is a real reform, or it's a temporary Band-Aid where they're going to try and, not censor and be balanced for a little while to lure their user base back. Then as we get closer to the midterms and closer to 2020, they'll be back to the same old things. But you're right. Zuckerberg is facing a stockholder revolt. They're calling for him to resign as chairman of the board. We had that poll last week that we were talking about where people are starting to say Facebook could vanish as quickly as MySpace did.
Right, that's what I was saying. I told my son that. My son's a lot smarter when it comes to business things than I am because he majored in that in college recently. But he says, no, it's just totally different. It's not different. MySpace went out of business because they weren't doing what the customers wanted. And that's exactly what's happening now with Zuckerberg. And it's also happening with Twitter.
Yes.
Twitter, I understand, is really hitting the dirt too. Now I'd like to see Google go down because they're the ones who operate YouTube, and YouTube is really out of control what they're doing, the kind of games they're playing. See, I know how to transverse it because I look for certain things on YouTube and I find it because a lot of times you can find it on somebody else's or something like that. If I'm looking for you, a lot of times I'll find you on Richie Allen. If I'm looking for Richie Allen, I can find it on you. But they always are. But I noticed they're always playing these games, trying to hide things. So that's got to stop too. We got to bring these people down. We got to bring them. Either they're going to cooperate and respect the First Amendment, or they're going to go out of business.
Yep.
And because this is at least one good thing is this is still a free enterprise system. And,
apparently King.com is planning on launching his own censorship-free social media platform, and he's got name value.
When is that?
He'll be able to pull it off.
When is that going to be?
I'm not sure when it's going to start, but he's announced that he is, in fact, putting this all together. This is an opportunity for other companies to come on in and make some real money. Anyway, we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks, and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And somebody just emailed me, what will Trump do without Twitter? All right. Now then, actually, that is a valid concern because Twitter, for all its faults, is the only way in which we're getting the unfiltered, unspun comments from the president. Because when it goes through the corporate media, they're all over the place with it. Now, in weeks past, I've been talking about what's become this transition in the LGBT community, where instead of merely pushing for acceptance, which is good, they're starting to get militant and in your face. And this is a repeat of something we saw happen to the feminist movement back in the 1990s, where it started out about being equal pay for equal work, which everybody could get behind, equal access to credit, equal access to education. These were all laudable goals. And then feminism got hijacked by some opportunists who turned it into this frothing at the mouth, male bash, all men are rapists, militant feminism. That ultimately burned the movement out. And we're seeing the same thing happen to the LGBT community here, where they're not just wanting to be accepted, they're wanting to literally force their lifestyle on others. There have been stories about LGBT people literally being invited into schools to advise little children on the fact that they're probably transgender and that gender is fluid. And this story, I think, really shows just how dangerous this is getting. Apparently, there is this university, and there is a teacher there, Heather Davis, who has a 4-credit course called Queer Ecologies. And the basic concept of the course is to dispel the idea that heterosexual sex is natural. So here's where we see this going. LGBT community wants you to think that what they do is normal and acceptable. Now they're basically trying to sell this idea that heterosexual sex is not natural, that we're the aberration. And again, if colleges are teaching this kind of nonsense, this kind of liberal indoctrination, how are these kids ever going to find a high-paying job to repay those student loans? College sure isn't what it was when I went there. College taught math and engineering, or history, or art, or theater. And there was a little bit of political discussion out on the quad about the war in Vietnam and things like that. But we didn't have classes like that. So, remember the New York Daily News? And they had this shrill, one-sided diatribe. We got to take a break for station identification. Back with hour number 3. This article and a phone call after these few words.
corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And as I started to say before we hit the station break, over at the New York Daily News, they basically are very liberal there. And they had this hysterical, shrill article a while back that insulted its readership with cheap attacks on lawful gun owners and America's leading gun rights organization. And as a result of that, people started canceling their subscriptions. They stopped buying it off the newsstand. And now the New York Daily News has had to slash its staff because of the loss of advertising revenue. Just like Facebook and Twitter have found out, these kind of actions do have consequences. All right, let's take a phone call from Dave in Missouri. Aloha, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, howdy, Mike. Hope you're having a blessed day.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of things. I happen to be home here. I live in Springfield, Missouri. I was taking a downtown walk today and just happened to, which is kind of a thing I like to do, happened to pass Claire McCaskill's office. So I stopped in to say a word, 3 people there, getting paid, I'm sure, by our tax dollars. Nobody's doing nothing. And my point was, hey, we need to see something from the Democrats except obstructionism. We need to see something productive. If you're a viable party, if you have, an idea, man, we need to hear it now because, all you're doing and the way you look are total obstructionists. You're looking fools to everybody. I know you like the bank's money. I've been advised there's things I can't talk about on air anymore, Mike. I think you're aware of that.
Yes.
I get a little too carried away because I name names. But the aloofness that I caught in that office. I mean, just the dispassion, disconcern. I mean, it was amazing to me. So I wasted 10 minutes of my time probably. But what I really called about is I met a great Mexican friend. I made a new friend. Now he's not here legally. He has 2 jobs. He sends his money home back. He's applied. He's trying to go through the process, but he's not legal yet. And I was always, until I met this man, I had a different view. But this is such a kind, and Mexican people. I mean, come on. I mean, they're just probably the best people on earth. I mean, if you ever had a dinner with a Mexican family, give me a break. Everybody's there, all 3 generations. I mean, just loving folks. But this was my thought. The CIA has been running drugs forever, and we all know this. The CIA makes the money. Western banks make the money. The Mexican government is shafted and therefore very corrupt. So, I mean, we leave them almost no scraps. Our bankers soak up the drug money, and they have for decades. Everybody knows this is true. And so the Mexican government is therefore, left with scraps and is very corrupt fighting over the scraps. Man, what would happen if the Republican Party adopted a total legalization agenda? And I mean across the board. I don't care how you do it. I mean, and take the criminal element out of the drug trade, take the CIA out of the drug trade. I think that why build? I mean, there's already a wall, because with our banksters. I don't. Now I'm thinking, I don't see a need for a physical wall. What I think we need to do is tear down the artificial wall, which really is the drug trade, and take the money out of the criminal element of it, which supports the Mexican government and the cartels. It's just kind of a. I mean,
I wish it was that simple. But the reality is that the people in charge of the drug cartels, whether it's organized crime or the CIA, they want the prohibition to continue because that maximizes their profits. And they would do anything with a capital A to prevent legalization, even though legalization or decriminalization has actually worked in other countries to control the drug problem. But America's drug lords, they got a good thing going here right now. They got cheap opium coming in from Afghanistan. They got cocaine coming up from South America. These people are rolling in all kinds of dough. The banks are helping them launder the money and getting their piece of the action. None of these people would want that to stop, and they would use whatever political pull they had, or even, if necessary, assassination to prevent a movement to legalize. I mean, look how hard they're fighting. But look how hard they're fighting legalizing marijuana.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk over you. But what I was thinking is that, man, if you could just tear down that barrier, then commerce could flow more freely. The Mexican people could benefit. We have no need for a wall, because we could share investment with each other. Without having to go through all the cartels, the politicians, the banksters, the thieves. To me, it's just, it's kind of a new revelation. So, my heart and soul's not into this, but I just think that if we did away with the BS, our peoples could interact more freely, and there would be a lot less tension than there is now, and a lot less need for them to try to, cross into America if investment could flow, real investment could flow, but that's right now blocked by this insane drug policy, which just props up corrupt governments on both sides.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, because,
I love you folks. Please support RBN. Mike, you're my favorite person. I'm sorry I haven't been able to call for a while, but, I was warned off about this, and I've been advised that there are things I can't talk about on air anymore with you.
Don't talk about them on air.
And I hate that.
Well, don't talk about them on air. Keep yourself legally safe here.
I know I can't name names, but folks, please support RBN. The only place you're going to find the truth. Mike, I love you. Give Claire our love, and peace out, brother.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and we're going to let you go. Now, if my theory is correct and the federal government is heading for a Soviet Union-style collapse, at that point we could have a discussion about whether it might be smarter to legalize drugs, tax them, and get rid of all that, because the political machine that would preserve prohibition would be gone. But again, organized crime figures would be doing everything they could to prevent that. They'd be trying to bring back prohibition. A lot of people don't know this, but back during alcohol prohibition, a lot of these temperance groups, the anti-alcohol groups, were being actually funded by the gangsters and the rum runners. They didn't know it. The money came through cutouts. But as more and more talk of repealing prohibition went across the country, the gangsters spent more and more money on these groups that were out there screaming, we've got to keep the prohibition going, because that's what kept the profits going. That's what kept the money flowing here. Now, over in Chicago at the O'Hare Airport, a DEA drug interdiction task force stopped this Yuba City resident, Josh Gingerich, and he was carrying $29,000 with him. And they took it without charging him with any kind of a crime. He didn't have any drugs on him. And he tried to explain to them his business is he buys used trucks, renovates them, and then flips them over. And buying these used vehicles is pretty much a cash on the barrelhead operation. But the DEA wasn't listening, and now this guy is fighting to get back all of his money because his business could be ruined by this. Civil forfeiture is completely out of control here. Over in San Francisco, apparently the conductors on the train system there are now issuing warnings over the PA system, warning riders to check their seats for hypodermic needles before sitting down. Apparently there are transient drug users on San Francisco, and it's another indicator of just how that city has gone totally downhill under Democratic leadership. And there was a witness, was interviewed on BuzzFeed, and apparently the warning was made over the loudspeaker at every single stop. Once again, please make sure there are no needles in or around your seat before you sit down. Apparently there was an incident where a woman did sit down and jabbed herself on this used hypodermic needle. I just hope that whoever used it before her did not have AIDS. Now, as you know, Monsanto is facing a lawsuit. They've been sued by a farmer for basically not being forthcoming on the risk of cancer from their products. Remember how Monsanto fought tooth and nail against the World Health Organization when it wanted to come on out and say glyphosate is a probable carcinogen. And I'm sure that the World Health Organization would have said it's a definite carcinogen. But Monsanto's lobbyists and lawyers got him to back off and said probable, which to me is still stay away. So apparently there was this individual, Donna Farmer, who leads the chemical company's deceptively named Product Safety Center, and who's been a lifelong nemesis of environmental, safe food, and farming advocates. And she's been called as a witness on this case. And basically, Monsanto fought Farmer's subpoena to a standoff in Missouri Supreme Court. Monsanto's stonewalling meant that the San Francisco jury only saw clips of Farmer's videotape deposition that was taken. Now, what's really interesting about this, the video shows Farmer emphatically denying that her role at the company was protecting Roundup until Miller confronted Farmer with her own email using those very words as her job description. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Kevin in West Virginia. Aloha, Kevin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mr. Mike, I have a couple of things on my mind. The first one, there was a caller that was talking about prohibition. My question is, they followed the Constitution at one point and wrote alcohol prohibition in and then took it out. Under that scenario, because all these other quote-unquote drugs are not wrote in like alcohol was, how therefore then it can be federally illegal if it's not wrote in the Constitution like it was with alcohol?
Well, the Prohibition Amendment was handled as an amendment to make it a national law. And this was in response to this massive demonization campaign. And so it took another amendment to repeal it. But the drug laws basically are passed at the national and state level. So it was more for the the sake of appearances, that prohibition was done as an amendment to send the message, this is permanent, this will never change. Of course, it did.
Okay. And then my other thing is you had brought up Monsanto. It's interesting that you brought that up. I'm taking a college course, and it's bioethics and contemporary issues. And one of the things we were talking about was GMOs and GMFs. And I had gotten into it with a guy who works with Monsanto. There was not very nice words. I told him, look, your company, it's criminal and everything that you're doing. Well, I had found that there's a loophole with Monsanto that the government does not require them to safety test their products. So how, therefore, can Monsanto say that their products are safe if they're not even safety testing them?
Well, actually what goes on is the U.S. government now allows all of these companies to do their own safety tests, and then the FDA and the USDA just take them at their word. Now, we know that Monsanto shortchanged their safety tests on glyphosate. They ran a rat study that ended at 3 months, and the rats were destroyed. The French study had the rats live out their entire lives and discovered that starting at 4 months is when all the medical problems and the tumors showed up. So obviously these companies like Monsanto, they have a financial incentive to rig their own safety tests, while the government just sort of looks the other way when the reports come on in.
Wow, to me that sounds so criminal, because people's lives, that's putting people in danger or at risk, or, where in the world is the ethics nowadays?
That's a big problem. We, as a nation, our society is breaking down. We've lost our moral compass, and that is because of our desperation to just get some more of that ink and paper stuff.
Right. And I have one final question, and I don't know if you'd be able to answer it. I see, you talk about a Soviet-style collapse, and you're absolutely right. I was just wondering what type of timetable you wanted to, if you could put on that.
It's really hard to say, because when you're trying to prognosticate the future, you're doing it on the basis of the government and the economy following certain rules. But we're at a stage right now where they're constantly changing the rules to prolong, the agony, if you will. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. We could see it happen as soon as by the end of this year. It may take another year after that, but I do think it is inevitable at this point. If the rest of the world dumps the U.S. dollar all at the same time, that'll bring down the U.S. economy, and that'll probably bring down the government with it. If we get into these ridiculous wars with Russia and China, we're probably going to lose those. That'll bring down the U.S. government. Okay?
Yes, sir. You have a great day.
All right. Thanks an awful lot, Kevin. We're going to let you go, and the phone lines are open again. All right. Little interesting story down in Argentina, where apparently at the Buenos Aires police station evidence lockup, 500 tons of confiscated marijuana went missing. And apparently the 8 police officers in charge of this lockup insisted that it had all been eaten by mice. Now, mice do eat and enjoy marijuana, but 500 tons? So the cops have been fired. All righty. More tech issues we're dealing with here. Okay, let's talk about computers now for a little bit. Everyone's talking AI this, AI that. And of course, one of the first AI systems out there is IBM's Watson. About 2 weeks ago, we were talking about this Chinese AI being used to diagnose different types of brain tumors that was not only faster but more accurate than human doctors. And I guess IBM wanted to say, we can do that too. And so they had IBM Watson diagnosing cancer, but it didn't work out. Apparently there's some internal documents that got leaked where IBM Watson made several unsafe and incorrect treatment recommendations to cancer doctors. Apparently, they're actually using the technology. It's actually out there and they're using it. So an investigation by Stat News, which got the files, revealed the problem lies with the AI system being carelessly trained. Rather than being taught to diagnose people from real cancer cases, IBM Watson was instead trained using synthetic records by the company's engineers and doctors working at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. Garbage in, garbage out. Now, real medical data is difficult to obtain for privacy reasons. However, relying on fake data, not a good idea. We'll be right back after these commercials.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking about computers and technology here. Now, security researchers at Check Point have discovered a massive network used to launch a malvertising campaign. And apparently it was a network of 10,000 WordPress sites that were compromised. And this thing was delivering 40,000 infection attempts per week from this campaign. which they're saying is still active. They're trying to figure out, how to come up with a way to block it, how to sterilize it. But basically, they reckon the criminals are getting a decent return on their ad spend so they can afford to outbid the legitimate publishers. And apparently these malvertising campaign, spyware, cryptocurrency miners, ransomware, banking Trojans were all being delivered from these ads. And nobody in the government seems to want to do anything about this. It's like open season on all of us computer users here. Story out of Christopher Bolland's website, basically saying that one aspect of 9/11 that's never been discussed is how deeply an Israeli company was connected with U.S. airport computers. And Christopher Bolland is out there basically saying that U.S. airport computers were compromised by this spyware. Now, we know that Israel was also running security at every single gate that the 9/11 planes departed from. They were in this thing up to their neck. All right, we're going to take another phone call here. Bruce in Texas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Aloha. I'm away from my internet source, so I can't give you the exact headline, but it's in RT, and it just broke today. Trump was stating that he was at a podium that he would speak anytime with no conditions with the Iran leader, supreme leader.
Yes. Yeah, I did see that.
You did see that?
Yeah, well,
I think
Trump scored a lot of points for himself going to talk to Kim Jong-un. He scored a lot of points for himself going to meet Vladimir Putin. I think this is an excellent move. It may be a PR stunt. But again, with all of this making nice with Russia and North Korea, and now if he starts to do it with Iran, Trump has become a major threat to the military-industrial complex. And I don't think he really appreciates just how these people will respond to that threat. Neither did Kennedy. Kennedy,
I don't know.
Yeah.
He may, has already thought about that. I think he's just been peeved. Maybe he's just doubling down, on his agenda. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad he's becoming more independent because his first year was rather disappointing on his foreign affairs. It looked like he was being led around by a leash.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. But again, we're still hearing talk of an actual military attack on Iran's nuclear facilities as early as next month. But if Trump talks to Iran's leadership and they have a handshake and he walks away, I think that would be a good thing. There's no reason to make war on Iran, certainly not that benefits the American people. This war is all about what currency Iran's oil is sold for. This war is about putting Iran under the slavery of a private central bank. It's about basically crippling Iran as a regional political power to make Israel happy. And of course, the fact that the U.S. government notoriously carries grudges for a very, very long time. And there are many in the U.S. foreign policy establishment who have not forgiven Iran or the Iranian people for kicking out the Shah of Iran back in 1979. Just like they haven't forgiven Cuba for kicking out Batista all those years ago.
Yep, you're right. And anytime peace with Iran is mentioned, they immediately bring out the photo from 1979 of the embassy employees in blindfolds.
Yep.
But they did find a lot of spying was going on there by putting together. They shredded the documents, but it was the old-fashioned shredder, and they were able to get a lot of embarrassing information that was going on there.
Yep.
But anyway, if Trump has a summit with Iran, I'm going to bring out the popcorn and the beer and just watch the festivities on the news.
It will be a good thing, and I hope Trump does travel to Moscow for a meeting. We know that Putin is coming to the U.S. for a meeting. It's probably going to be after the first of the year.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Sure, thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And it may be grandstanding. We know that after Trump's meeting with Kim Jong-un, Mike Pompeo went back to the hard line You got to do what we tell you to do. Kim Jong-un appears to be cooperating, dismantled that rocket testing station, and sent back those remains. Those are all positive gestures. Now, Kim Jong-un is probably now waiting for the U.S. to do something nice. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen because Pompeo's policy, like Israel, is you give us everything we want first, and then maybe we'll do something nice for you. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Over in India, they have launched a formal probe of the illegal data mining by Cambridge Analytica. And apparently, the firm failed to respond to successive notices by the Indian government on whether it had harvested the user profiles of the citizens of India. And after getting the non-response, the country's Apex investigative agency has been asked to launch a probe. So they're taking a look to what was going on here, and the government informed Parliament it has written to the country's Central Bureau of Investigation seeking an inquiry against the British-based mining and analysis firm. So we're starting to see the backlash from all this snooping on us here. Now, in the story of Facebook, there is a name that has been overlooked. It's like everybody looks at Apple and it's Steve Jobs, and only us real nerdy tech heads remember Steve Wozniak, although he's been in the media lately here. Well, the same thing is true with Facebook. And there was a gentleman, Aaron Greenspan, who was very integral to the creation of Facebook. And he was interviewed recently, and on the show he said he thinks Mark Zuckerberg is a sociopath and a threat to national security. And he was talking about Facebook's recent scandal, the stock's recent plunge, and why he believes the number of Facebook fake accounts are understated. Now, these social media companies make their money through advertising. And to make that money, they got to have lots and lots of readers. And they have been caught in the past faking accounts to basically cheat the advertisers here. Now, Kim.com has come on out. He's also slamming Zuckerberg. Pardon me, I've got the hiccups here. And he's saying that Facebook and Twitter are the ones who are meddling in the U.S. elections by skewing the public dialogue during the campaign season. And he says that they're doing 100 times more damage to democracy than all of the foreign meddlers combined. And .com basically said, be concerned about deep state social media companies like Facebook and Twitter. Because they've become the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. They're gatekeepers. They want to control everything you see and hear to basically convince you that voting for the liberal Democrats is the only possible course of action. They want to make sure you don't find out about all the crimes and corruptions of the Democrats. They want to make you forget about how the Democratic National Committee cheated Bernie Sanders out of that nomination in 2016. That's their job. That's what Facebook and Twitter does now. They're basically trying to control the minds of Americans. Not with much success, but that's what they're trying to do here. Now, Twitter has come on out announcing new projects to measure what they're describing as the health of social conversation. And they're doing this in partnership with experts from the University of Oxford to basically improve the health of conversation on the platform. So they've engaged social psychology professor Miles Hustone and John Gallagher from the university, along with Dr. Mark Heerdink from the University of Amsterdam. They're going to study how people use Twitter and what impact that has on the quality of debate. And Twitter's announced earlier they would review proposals from outside experts into how to measure and improve the health of conversation over years of criticism over misinformation and offensive content spreading on the site. In other words, they're coming up with another form of censorship. And I'll be the first to admit, when I was still using Twitter, it got pretty rancorous in there. And there was a lot of abuse being hurled. And yes, deliberately fake stories and deliberately fake tweets are a reality of modern internet life, which is why you have to take responsibility to be your own best analyst. Don't let Facebook or Twitter tell you what is real news or not. You have to figure it out for yourself. Actually, when you get really good at it, it's kind of fun. This one is just silly. Apparently, an international group of university researchers has found that humans perceive the color of anthropomorphic robots the same way they perceive race in humans, by color. And they're out there sounding a warning that we're biased against black robots. Well, there is such a thing as paint. It's not like this is a permanent condition. And unfortunately, our cultural signals for black versus white go all the way back to the early cowboy movies, where the good guys always wore white hats and the bad guys always wore black hats. And so we grew up with it. It's ingrained in us that we think white symbolizes good. I'm sure most of you, when you go to church, that priest up there at the altar is wearing a white robe. So I think that was the shark, though. This idea that we're biased against black robots. I think it's rather silly here. All right, let's get into some medical stories here. This is coming from Blacklisted News. And it starts out by mentioning that there was this law passed in 2016, which basically hamstrung the DEA, and it has not been repealed. And it's led to this government pharma collusion in the opioid epidemic. And the major pipeline for trafficking opioid drugs starts with pharmaceutical manufacturers who are intentionally distributing opioids far beyond any legitimate need. They want you hooked. They want you addicted. Right now, there are 2 million opioid addicts in the U.S. There have been 300,000 deaths from opioids since 2000. And apparently there was this law in 2016 signed by Barack Obama, and it basically limited the DEA in its efforts to crack down on big pharma traffickers. In other words, yes, you can go after the street dealers, you can go after the guy who fixes trucks from Yuba, take his money, but you stay away from the big corporations here. So it is terrible, and it is a crisis with the opioids here. Now, interestingly enough, there are editors of 2 of some of the most prestigious journals of medicine who are starting to take the position that evidence-based medicine might not be trustworthy or even true. And they start out with all of the conventional wisdoms that we were told that turn out to be completely false. Remember when we were all told that butter was a sure way to guarantee an early death? Now we're hearing it's not so bad after all. Eggs have gone from being a recipe for high cholesterol to nature's perfect food. And when it comes to medicine, it's even murkier. Do statins and antidepressants save lives or take them? I mean, statins especially have turned out to be a complete failure. And if you're following the health industry and all those commercials on TV, you're probably getting pretty confused. And you're probably saying, you know, where is the evidence? But according to the Lancet's editor-in-chief, Richard Horton, the case against science is straightforward. Much of the scientific literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue. Countless studies, and he should know, countless studies surely crossed his desk. Now, are these scientists who are making mistakes, or are they scientists who are writing journal articles in order to push a specific product? But without reproducibility, without double-blind studies, you can't really know. The former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, Dr. Marcia Angell, back in 2009 said it was no longer possible to trust much of the clinical research being published or even to rely on the judgment passed by trusted doctors and other medical authorities. She said that basically her 2 decades as an editor opened her eyes to the deceitful ways of so-called evidence-based medicine. It's all driven by money. And you begin to realize that Hippocrates' admonition to first of all do no harm has been kind of abandoned. I mean, Claire and I will sit in our living room and we'll watch TV and we'll see these ads come on for all the new modern whiz-bang medications, synthetic molecules, patented, market exclusivity, and we'll listen very carefully to that rapidly talking person at the end of the commercial who says, you know, if you take this drug, all kinds of bad things can happen. And you should be paying attention to that. And the last thing you should do is go into your doctor and say, I saw this really cool commercial for a medication I think will work. Now, apparently, insulin is the latest drug to see a major price increase, provoking a new outrage. And the problem is that 3 companies control 99% of insulin production in the United States. They effectively have, if you will, a cartel. So, again, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. There's been an issue apparently over at McDonald's, and apparently 123 people have contracted serious gastrointestinal illness from McDonald's salads. And the source still remains a mystery. So, not that I eat at McDonald's anymore, but apparently this problem has been linked to all 4 of the salads on the menu and involves a parasite called the Cyclospora, and causes vomiting and diarrhea. It can start a week or even more than a month after eating the contaminated food. So that's a problem there. Now, probably every time you go into a gas station or a convenience store, you'll see these grab-and-go sandwiches. They're there in a little case. They're being kept warm under light bulbs. And you grab and you open them up and eat them in your car. Well, Lipari Foods has issued a voluntary recall of Primo brand and Fresh Grab turkey and Swiss sub-sandwiches for possible Listeria monocytogenesis, which can cause serious and even fatal infections in young children, frail or elderly people, and others with weakened immune systems. Now, they say healthy individuals suffer only short-term symptoms: high fever, severe headaches, stiffness, nausea, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. The products were produced on July 17th and distributed to food service and retail stores throughout Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a phone call from Mateus in Canada. Aloha, Mateus. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael. Regarding that AP hit piece article against Trump that was featured on Drudge Report over the weekend, and it was regarding that some establishment media reporter personality is imploring Trump basically to stop being Hitler. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things about this article. That one thing, it's saying that there is no such thing as this fake news, that's just all made up. And then it proceeds to produce fake news. And one thing, as it said, is that America's #1 export is democracy. Like a big whopper there, like fake news.
Yes.
And then the other one, it said a slightly 1% more intelligent and subtle, saying that Trump says that media is the enemy of the people, when in fact what Trump is saying is that fake news is the enemy of the people, which is fair because propaganda is something that you normally would be doing against your enemy, like a foreign competitor country. And if you're doing propaganda against yourself, you're kind of drawing a line in the sand, kind of you're making your own people kind of like your enemy. So if someone inside your own country is propagandizing you, then that really is kind of your enemy. And it's just so shameless. Like Trump seems to be, Drudge seems to be on board with this featuring, so hundreds of millions of people can read this article. And so there, I wanted to say that. And I wanted to tell you in a new original joke.
Okay.
Okay. Why are extremist mountain climbers spending so much time camped out on the side of the mountain, in their base camps, and their shelters?
I don't know. Why are they spending so much time camped out on their tents stuck to the side of a cliff.
Because they're addicted to sports that are intense.
Okay. I got it. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go. And the lines are open again here. All right. More health news. Apparently in Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, positive results for Naegleria fowleri in water supplies have come back from independent testing. This is that deadly amoeba that eats your brain. And the Terrebonne Consolidated Waterworks District is saying they're going to put a different disinfectant in there. This is starting to smell suspiciously like Flint, Michigan, where they, in order to save money, they went with a cheaper chemical that turned out not to do its job. They're not taking care of the American people. They're too busy taking care of the war here. Over in Michigan, in Kalamazoo County, water tests are showing man-made PFAS chemicals in the drinking water in 2 towns, 20 times the safe level. So it is, it's really just crazy here. It really is here. By the way, Iran is labeling all GMOs, probably another reason why the U.S. wants to declare war on them. So we're coming up here on our last commercial break. We got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll get to that as soon as we come back from these words from our sponsors.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, last segment of our program on this Monday. And let's go to the telephones to Al in Canada. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I hope you're doing well.
Yes.
I kind of missed, the earlier part of your show. I'm going to have to watch it, I guess, on YouTube. But I sent you a video link to a local, like a city's news outlet, and they were the first ones, and I think, to show the unredacted video. When I say unredacted, like the face wasn't blurred, of somebody in the midst of a quote-unquote hate crime. I don't know whether you watched it or not yet, but I watched it
I'm just
a
putting
few
it up.
times. And right at the end, like where you actually see this guy saying what he says, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to have to. He says, "I'll kill your kids." He's got a big smile on his face, either like he would enjoy that or this is staged.
Well,
I'm kind of, I don't know anymore. I don't know what to believe. Because,
well, I've put the story up at what really happened so people can look at it and decide for themselves. I have not watched the video myself. I won't be able to until after the radio show is over.
Yeah, it is disturbing, to say the least. But, we're not living in very good times right now. This is actually awful. I think the whole world's bankrupt, morally and fiscally, except, for the up-and-coming countries that we've been looting for who knows how long now, I guess over half a century, and we want to continue doing this. And, eventually it's going to come to an end because there won't be anybody left to loot except ourselves.
Yep.
Mike? It's kind of sad, but I guess society's kind of breaking down, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. Our society is definitely falling apart. We're seeing, societal craziness, and again, parallel with ancient Rome. The closer they got to the collapse of the Western Empire, the more bizarre everybody's behavior became.
And then they have, apparently people are having these psychological episodes where they're calling it Trump dysfunction, dystopia, or whatever. What was that called?
Trump derangement syndrome.
TDS or something?
Yep.
Is it? Come on. This is getting insane here. We're right into the outer limits.
Yeah,
of what's happening in those Nunes files, or I should say what Nunes says about those unredacted pages will probably clear a lot of light.
Well, at some point, something has to break, and I agree with the analyst who says the Department of Justice and the FBI are just trying to stonewall this out to November in the hope that Democrats will take control of the House of Representatives and vote to shut down all these investigations. That's what they're doing.
I believe
literally
that.
betting the farm. All right, well, listen, there's the
Thank you,
music.
Mike.
Time for me to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here and at whatreallyhappened.com and share it with everybody that you know. We're in a war to get the truth out there against a tsunami of total lies. Please support Republic Broadcasting. Please support whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.